3 crowns, the name embroidered on the chest of every Swedish national hockey player, a symbol that for decades carried more weight in international hockey than almost any other emblem on Earth. Sweden. 11 World Championship titles, 2 Olympic gold medals, the only nation in the history of the sport to win both the World Championship and the Olympic gold in the same calendar year. A country of just 10 million people that sat at the very top table of international hockey for 8 straight decades, and then, 2021, the World Championships. Sweden, the nation that had never once failed to reach the playoff round since the modern playoff system was introduced, finished ninth. Their worst result since 1937. Eliminated before the quarterfinals. Humiliated on the international stage for the first time in living memory. 2026, the Winter Olympics. Sweden, one of the most decorated Olympic hockey nations in history, eliminated in the quarterfinals by the United States. Sent home early again. The golden era of Swedish hockey is not fading. It has already faded, and today we expose exactly why. This is Beyond the Hockey. Chapter 1. When Sweden ruled the world. To understand the scale of Sweden's collapse, you must first understand the scale of what Sweden built. Swedish hockey did not become great overnight. It was constructed over generations, brick by brick, player by player, title by title, into one of the most consistently dominant programs in the history of international sport. Sweden won their first World Championship in 1953, then again in 1957. Then a long, painful drought followed, broken finally in 1962. But it was the 1987 World Championship gold in Vienna that signaled the beginning of Sweden's true golden age. A generation of extraordinary talent was emerging from Swedish rinks, and the world was about to find out just how extraordinary. 1994, Lillehammer Winter Olympics, the shootout, Peter Forsberg, 20 years old, ice-cold, playing in his first major international tournament, stepped to the penalty spot in the gold medal shootout against Canada and scored one of the most famous goals in the history of hockey. Sweden won Olympic gold for the first time. The image of that goal became so famous in Sweden that it was later printed on a postage stamp. Then came 2006. Turin Winter Olympics. Tre Kronor had reached the summit of everything. And backing up this international glory was a domestic system that was the envy of European hockey. The Swedish Hockey League, one of the most competitive, most attended, most respected leagues in all of Europe. A junior development system that produced world-class talent with extraordinary consistency. Names that echo through hockey history: Börje Salming, Peter Forsberg, Henrik Zetterberg, Niklas Backstrom, Victor Hedman, Erik Karlsson. Sweden was not just winning. Sweden was producing generational talent decade after decade. The pipeline seemed endless. The golden era seemed permanent. It was not. Chapter 2. The cracks begin. The warning signs were there long before 2021, long before the humiliation of 9th place and the earliest World Championship exit in almost a century. The signs were there, but nobody in Swedish hockey wanted to see them. The first crack was the NHL drain. Swedish hockey's greatest strength, its ability to produce elite NHL caliber players, became paradoxically its greatest weakness on the international stage. As Swedish players became increasingly dominant in the NHL, the conflict between club and country intensified. NHL playoffs run simultaneously with the World Championships. Every spring, Sweden's best active players, Hedmans, the Karlssons, the Petterssons, are either competing deep in the Stanley Cup playoffs or recovering from injuries and the physical grind of an 82-game NHL season. The result was a Swedish national team that looked increasingly like a second-string outfit. Good enough to be competitive, not always good enough to win. While Canada and Finland could also argue the same structural problem, Sweden's talent pool, despite being extraordinary at the NHL level, was becoming dangerously shallow at the level required to win world championships without its biggest names. Chapter 3. The collapse 2021 was the year the warning signs became a catastrophe. The World Championships in Riga, Latvia. Sweden, 11-time world champions, 2-time Olympic gold medalists, one of the 6 most decorated hockey nations in the history of the sport, lost to Belarus, lost to Slovakia, lost to Czech Republic, and when the final standings were calculated, Sweden sat in 9th place. 9th. Since the modern playoff system was introduced to the World Championships, Sweden had never once failed to reach the quarterfinals. Not once. In decades of competition, through every difficult period, through generational transitions and coaching changes and structural upheavals, Sweden had always been there in the final 8. Always, until 2021. Until the year the floor finally gave way. The Swedish hockey establishment reacted with shock, with soul-searching, with promises of reform and rebuilding. Head coaches were changed, systems were reviewed, development pathways were examined, the entire structure of Swedish hockey was placed under a microscope. But the problems ran deeper than a coaching change could fix, because the 2021 collapse was not an accident. It was the visible result of years of structural erosion that had been building beneath the surface of Swedish hockey's proud international reputation. And the pain did not stop in 2021, Sweden's last World Championship gold was in 2018. 6 years passed without a title. Then the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan, Sweden arrived with one of the most talented squads they had assembled in years. Victor Hedman, Erik Karlsson, Gabriel Landeskog as captain. A genuine medal contender by anyone's assessment. They lost to the United States in the quarterfinals in overtime. 2-1. Eliminated again. The bitterness and heartache in the Swedish dressing room was visible on every face. These were not players who had given up. These were players who had given everything and still come up short. Chapter 4. The Real Reasons. So what is actually happening to Swedish hockey? What has changed between the nation that dominated the world in 2006 and the nation that finished 9th in 2021? The first reason is competition. The rest of the world caught up. Countries like Finland, who won their first World Championship as recently as 2011 and have since won multiple times, have built development systems that match or exceed Sweden's. Canada has tightened its international program. The United States is finally investing seriously in international competition. The gap between Sweden and its rivals has simply closed. The second reason is the NHL migration problem. More Swedish players are in the NHL than ever before. If this story shocked you, if you never fully understood how one of the most dominant hockey nations in history could collapse from Olympic champion to 9th place in just 15 years, then this channel was built exactly for people like you. Subscribe to Beyond the Hockey right now. Every single week we go deeper into the untold stories, the shocking collapses and the brutal truths behind the greatest sport on ice. Hit that notification bell, share this video with every hockey fan you know, and tell us in the comments, do you think Sweden can return to the very top of world hockey, or is the golden era gone forever? The debate starts right now. We are waiting for you.